Growing resilient plants. So, sand, silt, clay, organic material. When you are a small gardener, it's a lot easier for you to create that environment. If you're a large farmer, then you're looking at 1,000 acres. Well, how do I put sand on 1,000 acres if I need that sand in there? Or how do I put the clay or the silt, etc.? There's all kinds of different spreaders out there where you can create this environment that's necessary for your plants to have all the base components there. Like when you do a soil test and it says, oh, you need more calcium, you need more magnesium, you need this, this, and this. Well, you go to the co-op or the feed store or wherever you go to get those materials, and you have spreaders that spread all this material out. This is what you're going to need to do, whether it's sand, silt, clay, or that organic material. Now, guys, it's easy for the organic material. If you're a big, huge farmer, instead of chopping that straw, baling it, taking off, maybe every second year or every third year, just chop it up very fine, leave it there. That's your organic material. As long as you're not spraying the chemicals on there that are going to damage. And that's the thing with the gardeners, guys. We have to be really careful if we're buying straw to use as a cover for our soil, that we're not getting the chemicals that can be sprayed on to that, and we're not putting it on our soil. That's one of the reasons that I use wood chips, because I can get them, I can make them myself. I have, approximately 3 acres here. I have a bunch of trees, a bunch of dead trees. So I bought myself a wood chipper shredder. I do cardboard boxes. I run those through the shredder because that's carbon, and every life form needs carbon in its cell structure. Hi, Silent. Um, we have the opportunity to learn this now. 100 years ago, we didn't have this understanding. We didn't have the tools necessary to learn about this stuff. Now we have the tools to learn, and we have found out that it's all based on the cell division, and the ones that control it is the biology. So if we're growing our biology, we're growing our workforce, we're giving them the homes they need by having the different materials available for them to live on. Because face it, guys, there's some biology that like oxygen. There's some biology that don't want oxygen. And then there's biology that moves back and forth in between the oxygen loving biology and the non, and they're the transport division. They're moving materials from the area that doesn't want or need or have to have oxygen, can't live if there's too much, deeper in that soil structure, with the biology that's at the top, living in your organic material in those top layers where it's getting the oxygen. They're transporting material back and forth, and then those materials are become accessible for the biology in your plant to put the cells together. If we're breaking the mold by doing foliar sprays, by doing soil drenches, where we've broken that material down to the point where it's at molecule size instead of being, at a cell size, okay? When we break that cell down, we break the molecules out of that cell of carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, all the different things that made up that cell. That's what our composting is doing is breaking those materials down out of what you have in your compost pile. That makes it so much easier for those materials that are broken down and tiny already. Because remember, we're talking microbiology. Okay, you need a microscope to see these guys. Okay, you need small pieces to go and be put into the next cell. Okay, that's where we need to focus on having the available materials and housing for the biology. It's not just them mining a piece of sand or a piece of silt or a piece of clay. It's where are they living to stay safe and create more of themselves, because all those biology, that microbiology, that protozoa that's one cell is replicating itself. The more protozoa, the more things are broken down, the more materials go into your plant, the more resilient your plant is. Okay, we need to have the materials for them to grow themselves and for them to live in. Just like us, we want a house. We want to, go out to work. We do our job. We come home. We sit in front of the TV. Etc., etc. Well, these life forms have their own cycle. They have their own workflow, but they need houses. They need protection too. That's where your organic material really comes into play for the higher life forms. Now, when we go way deep in the soil, it's mainly bacterial because they don't need the oxygen. As we move up in the different sizes of biology, and we're talking going from a single cell organism to one that's 100 cells, to one that's 1,000,000 cells, and getting up into your worms and your bugs running around the soil, and it's a collection of cells. The higher life forms do different jobs. Your worms, they're eating that bacteria, they're eating the biology, they're consuming part of it, and it's running through. They're adding their biology. It's coming out the other end in worm castings, and it's broken down. And so much easier for the biology building the cells to use, to grab onto. That's where a lot of your compost teas, your extracts, it's breaking all that material down, growing more biology, having a bloom of biology, in the compost tea, say, and you're adding that much more workforce. Now, the other key on that, and I prefer extracts myself more than compost teas, but it's making it into what's called a dissolved solid, because you're mixing with water. So it's a dissolved solid in that water column. It's at a much smaller state. It's like a fermentation, making pickles, okay, or making sauerkraut for us. Okay, it's already been broken down. It's easier for our biology and our guts to break that down, use it in for new cells in our body, for using it to make new biology in our body to make those new cells. Okay, it all works together. And that is the beauty of everything that Mother Nature has set up, is it works together. The one can't exist without the other. That's why I talk a lot about the predator prey. You have to have the food source for the biology to eat, or else it's not going to exist there. That's where you want resilient plants. You have to have enough cells in your plant for it to be healthy. You look at an aphid, okay? An aphid bites into your plant, sucks out the chlorophyll. But if there's enough cells on that plant that it's so thick that the aphid can't bite through to get to the chlorophyll, guess what? The aphid's out of there, baby. Okay, it's going, hey, man, There's no cake, there's no ice cream, and there's no dessert here. I'm moving to the next plant because your neighbor's plants aren't that healthy. They never found out that they needed to do this, and all of a sudden you have a resilient plant because the plant is so healthy that the bugs don't want it. They can't feed off of it. That comes from having sand, silt, clay, organic material, having the components necessary to build more and more and more biology, which is going to build more and more and more cells. The more cells, the thicker the leaf, the more the bugs can't devour those leaves. At least the smaller bugs, okay? Caterpillar, well, a caterpillar's going to eat a leaf, okay? Sorry, it's just going to happen. You can't have strong enough deterrents in your system that you have the complete cycle of life, or the soil food web, as it's called, having the different life forms that are consuming the caterpillar before it ever comes out. You have the birds coming in going, oh, hey, a caterpillar. I think I'm going to eat this one. Okay. It's a matter of creating that life in your garden, in your field, on your farm, in your environment, whether you're in the city and you're just growing some herbs on your balcony. The more life you have, the healthier and more vibrant, more resilient your plants are going to be.